Hello everyone, welcome to tutorial number 4. Sorry for the delay in tutorial. This one was a little tough. I ran into an artist's wall, if you will. Kept going back and forth, trying other things. Then struggled with the color for a little bit, but we made it, and I really like the way this one came out. So I hope you're as excited as me to get started. So I've set up here my outputs, pretty standard for me. I like to give myself plenty of space. All right, this one's gonna be a long one, so let's jump right into it. All right, so we're gonna move over here, and we're gonna start with a shape node. All right, and we are going to change our scale. Now, as you guys know, I do make the material first, and then I redo it for you guys. So I do have this on my laptop here, and I have the numbers so I don't spend too much time doing the guesswork. So we're going to go with a scale of 0.88875 to get this shape, just a square. Then we're going to do another shape, and we're going to make this one a scale of 0.247, like that. And then we are going to rotate it 45 degrees. What happens if we use this one? Yeah, don't use this one, because I think this rotates, or this creates tiling, which we do not want. So just go with this one. And there is a way to get rid of that, but I'd rather do it this way. Okay, then we're going to go into a transform 2D, and then we're going to position this guy in the corner, because what we want to do here is cut the corners off this shape here. So if we do subtract, you'll see here that we're cutting this white shape. We're subtracting the top from the bottom. So we need to move this guy up here so that we can get this like chamfered corner here. So I'm not gonna guess. I have the numbers here, and they are. Oh, okay. We just offset by 0.5, negative 0.5 on the x, and then 0.5 here. I guess technically it doesn't matter if it's, as long as it's 0.5, it'll go into one of the corners. Okay, and then we have this. Once we have this, we are going to have another shape up here. And for this guy, we're going to leave everything as is. We just need a solid white background here. Remember, give yourself room so you stay organized, so you can make edits later. And then we're going to do a levels, because we are going to create our extrusions, I guess would be the word. And we're going to make this one subtract, because what we want to do is subtract. We're subtracting this. This is the extrusion, so this is the shape that's going to be inside. So obviously right now it's black and white. So if we were to plug this in, this is what we have. We don't want to cut that far deep, so let's do this. Let's fix our stuff here. All right. And then for this levels that we used here, we want to make that 0.3 on the level at high. So 0.3. That way it's not as deep. But actually, let me turn on my height scale. We're going to go with a height scale of 2.5, because that looks very nice with the end product. And then we're going to go with 6 just for now. You can always turn that up. Turn that up. Alright, so then we see that if I hide this, this is what it was before, and then this is the new height. Okay. Now we're gonna need another blend here. I'm gonna make a connector here so that when I put a node in between, it doesn't go all the way to the very end. And then we are going to pull from this guy. We're going to make a connector. Then we're going to drag from it. And we're going to do a 2D transform again. And for this guy, we are going to go into the edit matrix values. And we are going to do for the x1, we're going to do 1.07. And then for the y2, same thing, 1.07. Because we're scaling this original shape down. And then we are going to subtract that again. So now we have like this multi-stepped extrusion. We're going to move this down a little bit. And then after this, we're going to do a scan. And the reason we're doing a scan is because when you scale something using the Transform 2D, you create a stretching effect on the edges and you start getting a grayscale, kind of like a blur. In some cases it might be okay, but in our case I want clean extrusions, clean steps. So there's an option here that I think we covered this in another previous tutorial that you can find in a tile sampler as well. This option called filtering. By default it's filtered by linear, but if you change it to nearest, it gets rid of that. But the problem with this is that if we look at the original, it does alter the shape a little bit. Obviously that's from the 2D, but instead of using this filtering thing, I am going to use a histogram scan. I'm going to turn it up all the way. And actually I use 0.98. And I think the reason for that is because, actually I should use this. Because if I turn this all the way up, it's giving me this extra set of steps here, which I don't want. You can probably see it here. Yeah, so after our subtraction, you can see here what it's doing. And if we look closer at where that would be, so let's do top down, camera view, and then we're looking at the top left corner, so let's go there. So if we zoom in really close, you can see here, if I go directly above it, you can see here the weirdness of it's not straight. So if we turn down our position and you find the sweet spot, which seems to be 0.97, now we get that clean diagonal pixel line. It's probably not perfect, but it's pretty good, and we have the black or white contrast that we want, so that we don't get any weird jagged lines. So this is before and then after. Okay, and then of course we need our levels because we don't want to cut all the way down. This is already looking better than the one I did. And then for the levels here, we're doing, oh, whoops. I'm undoing on the wrong screen. We want to do 0.3. Okay, so now we have 2 steps, boom, boom. And then after that, we're going to do an add. And then we're going to just switch this to get ready for it. Now we're not adding anything, so it's looking like the previous node. And we're going to drag again from here because we want to keep reusing the same shape. like so. And again, we're going to do another 2D transform. And then again, from this one, we're going to do a scan. And then for this transform, if we go to the matrix value, we're going to be doing 1.15 and 1.15 because we want to scale them proportionally. Now, what's happening here is that, let me see. Okay, so because we're starting to scale this down or up, you're going to, it's right now it's trying to tile, so it's doing this. And obviously if we were to add, whoops, this there, well actually I won't do anything because this is already as white as it gets, so it doesn't have any room to show. Well, also because this is set to that. But yeah, we don't want this tiling, so I think I covered this in another video, but we'll go over here. Instead of going here and then changing this to, not pixel ratio, tiling mode, going to here and changing this to no tiling, we're actually going to do this at this guy here. That way we don't have to do it here, we don't have to do it here and anywhere else, because this shape is never going to tile, or we don't want it to. So we're going to go here, we're going to do no tiling, and then when we go back here, you'll see that it's gone. Now you could also do it on this guy only, because maybe you want something to tile here, but not here, and because it's feeding from the same node, then you can specify which node you want that on. And I think this option is available on everything, so keep that in mind. Okay, so next, now that we have our next step here, let's move this guy down. For this scan here, we're going to do 0.8 on the position and a contrast of 1, because we're doing the same thing that we did here. We don't want to make sure we don't have any weirdness happening there. And then we should have this. So this is going to be our, basically our tile, and then we're going to use a tile generator to plug this into, to make a tile. So we're going to do a tile generator. And by default, for some reason, it always plugs into the background. We want it on the top, pattern input 1, and then we have to switch our pattern here into image input. Now let's plug this in here. Obviously, we don't want these many. So we are going to change this to 2x2. Like that. And then what else do we need here? 2x2. Correct. We're going to go to our image filtering. We're going to do nearest. So when you put something into a tile generator or tile sampler or any type of generator where you're feeding whatever, when you're feeding something into it as an input, it's going to do what our 2D does when you try to stretch something, because it's trying to stretch this shape to fit a 2x2 basically space. So it's going to do a little bit of what we've been trying to fix here. So just to make sure that all our work isn't wasted, we're going to change this to nearest as well. And that'll fix that. Okay. Nearest. Great. Now we are going to do a levels after this. We want to give ourselves room, because right now this top part here is 1. It's as white as it's going to get. And we want to have our treads go above this. So we need to give ourselves room for that. So we're going to lower the overall levels of everything that we've done previously down to 0.75. So that'll give us 0.25, left. So 25% of the gradient left to work with. So we're going to do 0.75 here. So you can see everything uniformly goes down, which is what we want. And then we can add our treads later on because now we have room to play with. We have 25%. Okay, so now I'm going to do a simple blur after this, just so that our, so if we turn this off, turn your quality up to 1. If we look closely, this is like super harsh and you'll get this stuff, and you will need to increase your like vertice density all the way up to fix that. And it'll have to be crazy amounts, and that might freeze your computer. So we're just going to do a very subtle blur of 0.25. So 0.25. And you can see here that we still retain our shape. We do lose a little bit of the harshness, as you can see here, because we're blurring. But now we don't have that jaggedness that we had before. So very subtle. We can probably even go a little lower, maybe 0.2. But I'm trying to stick with what I did, so which is 0.25. Feel free to play around with that. Okay, now this is where the fun begins. Now we are going to do a blend here, and we're just going to change this to max lighten for now, and then we're going to need some space, so we're just going to, actually we're getting close to her. We're just going to go all the way over here. Move these guys over here. Give yourself some room because we're going to be putting stuff here. Okay, if you've seen my previous tutorials, you're pretty familiar with my workflow, keeping height in a straight line, and then everything that we add to it or subtract or whatever will go below it, just to keep ourselves organized. Okay, so for the fun part, we're going to start adding detail to our plates now. So we're going to start with another shape. And for this guy, we're actually going to use a new pattern. It's called gradation. So down here, just above waves, somewhere in the middle. And this just gives us a gradient, a very nice gradient that we can rotate. Now, obviously, if you rotate it into some weird degrees that is a 90, it's going to break. But that's okay because we're not worried about that. We are going to use a scale of 0.125. Oops, not there. 125. And it's going to give us this. And then for the size on X, we want to do 0.25. And for the size on Y, we want to do 0.35. And then we get this little guy. Everything else is fine. Now we're going to do a levels after this. Oops. Let's move this guy over here. This one over here. And then we're going to go into the numerical settings instead of the sliders so that we can get it, you guys can copy my exact settings. And we're going to do 0, and then we're going to do 0.45, 0.5, 0, and 1. So we're really just worried about the level in high. Okay, and what that's doing is what we did is we brought the white, we want to flatten this. We plug this in here. So this is what I was doing before, and now we're flattening the top by spreading the white. So you can see here it's like solid, and then the gradient starts. Okay. Now same thing as what we did with the plates. I want to blur this a little bit so that we don't have that harsh fall off. And we do 0.1. Oops, I put that in there. Definitely turn your quality up to 1, and we're doing 0.1. Very subtle, so you can see here, very faint before, after. Just to give it a little bit of stepping. And then we need 2, just gonna unplug this for now. We need 2 2D transforms. Boom, boom. And then for this top one, we're going to do an offset of 0.04 on the X, 0.04, and then for the Y, we're going to do 0.12. And that just basically moves it over here. And then for the bottom one, we're going to do 0.04 and then negative 0.125. So then we have these two in different locations, and then what we're going to do, you probably guessed it, we're going to add them. We're just going to do a basic linear dodge because they're in their own, they're not touching, so we just need to add them together. Then after this, we're going to do a mirror grayscale, similar like in 3D modeling. So we're going to mirror it like so, and then we're going to do another 2D transform because we're going to move it again. And this guy is getting moved to 2.25 on the Y. So leave X at 0. And then we're going to do another mirror because now we're going to mirror it to the bottom. A lot of mirroring here. And change this to Y. There you go. If you're working on another project, sometimes I can't get it to mirror the way I want it. So just try moving all the settings and you'll eventually get what you need. Okay, now from here, we're going to do another 2D. Because what we want to do is, let's give ourselves some more room. If we add this here, there we have our little notches, but obviously they're not in the right place. So let's do a levels here. I'm just skipping ahead a little bit to kind of set it up so that you guys can see what it's looking like and how what we do affects it in real time. So we need a levels here of 0.65. And then there, that's where I want them. Perfect. So now we have them up here and down here. So obviously we need to put them over here, here, and here. So let's continue now that it's set in place. So now we have this guy right here, and we're just gonna rotate 90 degrees. And then we're gonna blend them together because now we're adding them. So let's change that to add, and now we have them going this way and this way. And now it's gonna update here, and you'll see here, boom, now we have them on these sides, so I would need them on the top and on the left. So we need to do some more transforming 2D. Pull again from this guy, because this guy is nice and centered for us, so it's easier to do our rotations and our move and our offsets. So for this guy, we're going to do an X offset of 0.5. So now half are on this side and half are on this side, which is good because it covers this guy. So if we go here and we do a blend, oops. So now we have this guy and this guy, and now we just need the top and the bottom. So I'm going to do a blend here. Change this to add as well. And then this guy, I'm going to do another 2D here. And then this guy is going to offset. Actually, no, we're just going to rotate it. Like that. And then we're going to add these guys together. Boom, boom. And then we feed it back into here, like so. And now we have all our sides covered. And then it feeds into the levels, and then it feeds in here, and then we have our notches. And then, you know, we lowered it here by 0.65 to get it here. If you want to play with it, you know, you can go lower, or maybe you just wanted them to be down there. Maybe you want them to stick out the top like this. That could be cool too. But we're going to stick with 0.65. Okay. And then that's it for the notches. We're going to be stacking on detail, so let's keep moving. I'm getting a phone call. 1 second. Alright, I'm back. Seems like my mom accidentally butt dialed me. Alrighty. So where were we? Oh yeah, after the notches. Okay, so now we're going to make the treads. This is going to be fun. And by fun, I mean a little annoying. Okay, so we're going to start with, you guessed it, a shape. Everything in life is a shape of something. Okay, for this shape, we're going to use a Richter-Bell. And it already kind of looks like what we need, like a tread. And we're going to do a transform 2D. We're going to manipulate the shape. Going to edit matrix. And then for the X1, we're going to do 3.2. And then for the Y2, we're going to do 2.1333. Now you see we're having that problem again. So as usual, you could either do it in shape or transform. We're going to do it in the transform this time. Tiling mode, absolute, no tiling. Okay. Then we're going to do a levels. And for this levels, we're going to do, for the level in mid, 0.1575. So 0.1575. Everything else is going to stay the same. And that gives us this, from this to this. Then we're going to give it a slight blur. Actually not a slight blur, it's a fat blur of 5. Because we want to get rid of this, you can see kind of this thin white line. So it's kind of like it's pinching at the very tip, and we want to smooth that out. All right, and then we're going to do a, we do another levels, but I didn't do anything to that level, so I'm just going to leave it as this. And we're going to do 2D. And then for this guy, we are going to do an X1 of 0.7654 and X2 of negative 0.7391, a Y1 of 1.8478, and then a Y2 of 0.3061. That looks like what it looks like on my laptop, so that's good. No offset on X or the Y. And then from this guy, I am going to do another 2D transform. And for this guy, we're going to do an X1 of 0.6756, X2 of negative 0.7373, a Y1 of 0.7373, and a Y2 of 0.6756. So basically what I did for this one was just do a rotation to get it to go zigzaggy, or I guess the other way, crisscrossing. Now we need a tile sampler. This big boy. And we are going to change to pattern input. And by default, you start with pattern input 1, and you can add up to 6, I believe. So right below the pattern, you'll see pattern input number. 6 is the maximum you can do. So we only need 2 for this. So we're going to go with 2. Plug this into pattern input 1, and this one into pattern input 2. Now we get this. Cool. We're getting somewhere. Now let's do a blend here, just to get it set up so you guys can see what's happening as it happens. So right now this is happening. So what we're going to be working on now is getting the proper pattern distribution that we want, and getting them to only show up where we want them. So let's see what other stuff I changed here. So to get this like treading pattern, it took me a while to get it. But first of all, you need to have twice the amount in X or Y than the other. So we're going to do 28 on X. And 14, so it's half. Okay. And then our scale is going to be 1.85, so it's almost twice as big. And then we don't want any scale random because this is like machine made, so it's going to be pretty accurate. We're going to go down to position, and then under offset, we're going to do 0.5. All right, and then the offset type, because right now it's offsetting the, like side to side, we want to change it to vertical. Quincux. Okay, boom. Now the issue that we're seeing here is that if we go back to pattern, the pattern input distribution is set to random. We want it to be based on number. So it goes this one, then 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 this one. Before it was just random, so you could get like, you know, 2 of these in a row, and then 1 of these, and then back to 5 of these, which could be useful. But for our cases, we want them to be one then the other, then one then the other. So now we get this. Very nice, very nice. Now what else do we need? We are going to now do a levels here because we're running out of room. And because we're running out of room, it's making this is 1, or it's reached 100% of the height. So it's starting to flatten out. So we're going to do a levels here, and we need to lower it because we do want it to be completely white in here, but over here we need to lower it relative to everything else. So we're going to do 0.25 and then level out high as usual. Okay, and then there's our shape. It's looking nice. And then, you know, you can play around with that. Maybe you want them to be lower. Maybe you don't want them to stick out so far, but I wanted to make it a little drastic. So we're going to go with 0.25. And this blend is set to add linear dodge and set to 1. Okay, but now our next problem is that they're scattered on top of everything like it doesn't care, like it owns the place. So we're going to create a mask that we can plug into this third one down called mask map input. We're just going to tell it, hey, only show, you know, this pattern in this mask, in this white area. So we're going to create that. You guys already know. We're going to do a shape, not a shape pep, a shape. And then for this guy, we're going to do a square. We're going to do a scale of 1 and x of 0.325, 0.325, and then 0.21 down here. And then everything else is going to stay the same. And then we're going to do a safe transform. This is similar to a 2D, but sometimes when you rotate certain things, just to give you the brief of it, it breaks your tiling, and this is a way to continue your tiling. It's not used in every case, but for some reason I used it. This is a material that I made years ago that I never finished. So I'm decided to keep this, but let's just stick to it. And then we're going to do a rotation here of 45 degrees to get it to go that way. And we know we have that same tiling problem, which we don't want. So we already know what to do. Sorry, laptop was doing some weird stuff. Okay. And then from this, oh wait, yeah, we got to fix our tiling. So we're going to go to our shape this time. Absolute, no tiling, fixed. 2D, transform 2D. And then for this guy, we're going to do an offset of 0.35 and 0.35. So 0.35, 0.35, like that. Then we're going to do another 2D transform. And we're going to just click the 180 here, which is a rotation of 180 degrees, just to get it to go on this bottom right corner. And then, oops, we're going to blend them together. Oops, keep that at 1. We're going to add them together. And then here we're going to do another blend. And then we need a, this is going to go on the top. Now we're going to pull from our one of our shapes from the beginning. And we are going to pull from this one. You'll see why. Change this to subtract. And for some reason I have a scan here. So let's just stick to the plan. And change this to position 1 and contrast 1. And then we get this. Now don't worry about the blurring here, because what's going to happen is it's going to spawn these guys, the treads, on this. So let's plug this in here into the mask map input. And then nothing will happen because we have to tell it to recognize this as a mask. Or let me show you. If you go down to color, the first option here is mask map threshold. So it's telling, okay, this is the mask you're inputting. What percentage of this mask do you want to use? Obviously we want to use all of it, so I'm going to change this all the way up to 1. And you see here that it removes it. So if we go down, but the problem now that we're having is this only creates one tile, and we need the 4. So we're going to do here a tile generator again. And for this one, we're going to do plug this into the top again. And then we're going to do 2 and 2 because that's how many tiles we have, right? And then we're going to do image input. And then we have our 4. And then we need to do a scale of 1 is fine. I think everything can stay the same actually. So let's try that. Now it's a little off. Let me check my scale here. Okay, let me see what's different here. Alright, I see what I missed. Let's go back to our tile sampler here. Double click it. And we're going to do a global offset. What that is just moves everything, on the X or the Y. And we need to do a global offset on the Y of 0.5. And 1 on the X. Alright, there must be something else I'm missing. Let's see. Okay, after like 5 minutes I realized what it was wrong. The global offset on the Y should be 0.25, not 0.5. Okay, so that is the sweet spot to where like nothing gets cut. So it was like here, and what we want is 0.25. So then everything's perfectly without getting cut off, and then we leave we leave these 2 corners empty, which is what we want because we're going to be adding some bolts there. That's why we did these cutoffs in the corner. Okay, there we go. Very nice. All right. Next, we need another blend, of course, because we're nowhere near done. Well, actually, a little bit. We're going to change this guy to subtract. And then let's get started. We're going to start with a shape. And then we're going to do a tile generator. Now, like I said, there's a lot of ways to do the same thing. This is the way I chose for this project. So please don't flame me saying there's a better way, because there most likely probably is. Let's change our image input 2 and 2. I already see a different way we could have done this. It's probably more efficient, but it's okay. We're going to change our luminance random all the way up. And then I think that's it. And the reason for that is because I want to be able to use a edge detect. And like I've said in the like I think it was the wooden boards tutorial, edge detect only works on different values of gray, or yeah, and it has to be between something in between. If these were all white, then it would detect it as one big square, but because these are different shades of gray, then it detects them as individual islands, which is what we want. Okay, we're going to do an edge width of 2 and an edge roundness of 0. So we get this, and then we're going to do an invert grayscale. And then we're going to do an add here, and we're going to add something to this. So let's go below it, do another shape, try and pick this up a little bit faster. We're going to do a scale of 0.075, and then we're going to rotate it 45 degrees, like so. Then we're going to do, what I'm going to do here, I'm going to try something. I'm going to just grab, we'll just do it. Let's do a new fresh one. Do a tile. I was going to copy and paste it, but I think it might be faster if we just do this. Change it to image input. And again, everything's going to be 2 by 2 for the most part. So just remember that. And then we're going to put this over here. And then this is going to be an add. And obviously we want to put the diamonds here in the middle. So we're going to go back to our tile generator here. And we are going to mess around with the global offset. So we need 0.25 here. And then 0.25. Oh, I slid perfectly into it. And because we still have our tiling, when it reaches the corner, it'll tile, which is what we want. So then when we add it, we get this. Oh, let's change our image input filtering to nearest to get a clean distinction between the two, no slopes. Okay, then we have this, and then we want to do a bevel. And then here we want to do a negative 0.01. We want to make the bevel very, 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 very subtle, because we're going to add a crease to differentiate, because right now it just seems like it's all one tile. And if we were to tile this, and it'd be like the floor is one big metal piece, and obviously that's not how that would work. It would have to be separate pieces together that are bolted together, or some sort of attachment system between these tiles. So after our bevel, we're going to do a max align. So blend, and then we'll come back to this. Now below it, we're going to do a shape. And this shape is going to have the size an x of 0.5 and the y of 1.25. It's going to create this bar here. Where'd it go? This thick rectangle here, and we're going to turn the scale down to 0.3. And then below it, we're going to do another shape. And then this guy's going to have a scale of 0.1. We want to rotate it 45 degrees. And I'm sure there's some of these shapes that I can probably reuse, but I decided to go with standalone just in case I needed to make edits. I don't have to make edits to to the previous one, because then if I do that, then if they're all dependent, then everything kind of changes. So sometimes you need to have your own specific shape for that specific thing that you needed to do. Okay, so 2D transform. All right, this is where it gets a little fun. Offset on the X of negative 0.1125, and then on the Y 0.045, like so. And you'll see what we're doing here soon. We're gonna mirror this on the Y. So it's coming from top, and we're gonna mirror it to the bottom. And then we're gonna do another. And then this guy, we're gonna do mirror corner, and then top right. I just ended up guessing a bunch of different things. And then we get this. Now, the reason we have this is because we are going to use this to subtract from the rectangle from above to give us this beveled or chamfered corner. And I'm seeing something here. Let's put this to, not that, sorry, filtering to nearest. And then that'll give us a cleaner bevel. Rather than having, if I undo that, rather than having this. Okay. Now we are going to do a bevel here. And this bevel is going to be negative 0.005. Like so. And then we're going to do another tile generator, because everything goes in through a tile generator. Change this to input. And then we need to go 2 by 2 as usual. And then we need to double the scale. So here's a little something I realized while doing this actually. So this is the original shape, right? And then when you plug it into the tile generator, and let's say you do 2 by 2. Now this shape that we get is smaller than the one we inputted. And that is because we're basically shrinking it by whatever amount we have here, because it needs to fit within the same space. So if we go to 2 by 2, this is actually half the scale of this guy. So it's something that's actually very helpful. Because that way you can match the proper scale. Okay, so yeah, we're doing 2 by 2, and then we're going to go to our offset, and we need to offset this by 0.25 on the Y. So 0.25, like this. And that relation between, the input and then what it becomes here is can be important, and it'll be important a little later down. So similar to our notches, we're going to do a transform 2D here, and then we're going to do a rotation just of 90 degrees. So just hit this 90 CW. I don't know what the CW means. And then we're going to do a add. Like so. And then we are going to feed this in here into our max lighten. And this is what it's supposed to look like. Yes. No. Something's off. Let me check. Alright, I figured it out. I think where I left off, this was unplugged. No, this was unplugged. So let's unplug that. Right, so what I've tried to do here in the tile generator, we need to change the scale to 2 to match this because we're dividing it, because we're making it from 1 to 2. So now you can kind of eyeball it. This is the same as this now in terms of shape. So we're going to turn the scale up to 2. That's what I was missing. Okay. So then we do a max light in here. And I'm going to just cover this for a little bit here. This is important here because we actually before we do that, let's do a levels, because we don't want it to go all the way down. We just want it to go about 0.25. Put this here. Boom. You guys already know which one to change. This one. Okay. So if we look closer, if we were to do a basic add, this is what we would get. So look here. It would add this value and this value, and it would give us this like pointy shape. If we do max lighten, then it only takes certain values. I recommend watching that Johnny M video that explains the different blend types so you can understand this better. But it's not much of a difference, but it does this, which is what I wanted, as opposed to this. And you'll see why later, but that's what we wanted. Okay. And then, so what we're doing here is we're creating the holes where our plates or our clamps, or I don't know, whatever you want to call it, are going to go. They're going to go on top of here, but we're creating the hole for it first. Now that we have the holes for, these guys and these guys, now we can create the buttons. So let's create our blend. Let me change the music. Okay, let's do this. Let's get pumped up. Okay, so we're going to swap this to max lighten just to get it set up. And then we're going to do another shape. Just fix that real quick. Now for this shape, we're going to do a scale of 0.17. And then we're going to rotate it 45 degrees. And then we're going to do a bevel. And we're going to do a distance of negative 0.05. Now remember, the difference between negative and positive is the way that it pushes out the bevel. So if we go positive, it goes outward. If we do negative, it goes inward, which is very important depending on what you're trying to do. Okay, we're going to do another tile generator. You can probably copy and paste previous ones, but make sure you're copying the proper one, because sometimes you're doing more than just doing 2-2. Okay. And then we're going to go do another shape below it. Then this is going to be a scale of 0.02, very tiny. And actually, let's get real close here. We're going to do a pattern, a disc, because we want a circle for this one. We're going to do a bevel, plug it in. And then for this one, we're going to do negative 0.01. It's going to give us this. We also want to give it some smoothing so that it has a nice blend. Otherwise, you're going to see these like ridges here we don't want. So we're going to do a smoothing of 1. Then we're going to do a blend. Let's give ourselves more room. I'm going to move this out like this. Actually, no, we're moving back. We're going to do a levels. And then this is going to be subtract. I'll show you what we're doing here. I'm going to bring the level out high just a little bit down. Oh, we're going to do our offset first. So in our tile generator here, we need to offset. Sorry, not a global offset. To 0.25, 0.25. Okay. So before we look at the other stuff here, what I'm doing here is I'm adding a very small, like, dip. So it's kind of like the press here. Actually, I think I just noticed something that I didn't do that I should have done in the original one, and that is do a tile generator. Oops. Because otherwise this button is only going to be in the middle one, and it should be on these guys. So actually, let me check real quick. Yeah. Whoops. I didn't do this on the original, which good thing I didn't do any of the graphics for the videos yet, so I can fix it. But I'm just gonna grab this guy, copy paste, and then we need to make this scale of 2. And then for the levels here, we're gonna do 0.05 because we want the dip to not be this deep. We want it to be a little shallower. So we're gonna do a 0.05. Like that. It's kind of like the press here type thing in the center. Now before we continue, let's make some changes to our ambient occlusion. So I'm using an HBAO because it's cheaper than the RT, which stands for ray tracing ambient occlusion. I don't know what the HP stands for, but it's cheaper. Okay. Now for the ambient occlusion here, we want to do 0.02, and that just changes the height depth. So if you look at the shadows, they'll soften up because I'm basically telling it, hey bro, chill, it's not that deep, literally. Otherwise, it just thinks it thinks this is really deep, so it's giving us a darker shadow, which we don't want. This is all happening pretty, light would hit down there. And then we want to go to our normal, and I want to make this a little bit more dramatic. We're going to do 5. And that just helps make everything pop. So before, after, and you can play with this. You can change this to the very end or at the very beginning. Doesn't matter. Just an intensity slider. You could even edit this in your game engine. Okay. I think that's it. Okay, let's go back. So now that we have this exaggerated a little bit up to 5, we can see that dip it a little bit more. So let's go back here. And then let's look at, where were we? Oh, right here. Okay. So let's look at this. I can see a little bit of harshness here in the corner. So I'm going to go to this bevel real quick, and I'm going to do maybe a smoothing of 2. Ugh. Oh, see, that looks worse. I'm going to pull this back a little bit. I'm going to do a very subtle blur. 10 is not subtle. Increase your quality to 1. We'll do like 0.2. Maybe 0.1. It's back. There you go. Something like that. Yeah, in the original, I don't have that divot replicated on all of them, just the center, so I'll have to fix that later. Alright, good thing I caught that. Let me make a note of that actually. Okay, now that we have that, let me go back here on my laptop. Okay, we're gonna do a levels here. Whoops. And then we're gonna lower this to 0.75. Because we want it to blend into the rest of the plate, like so. Cool trick, if you press this little I guess for image information button here, you get this secondary thing that appears down here. And what it does is it gives you information. If you hover your cursor over a color, you can see down here it tells you the values. So you can see it go up as I'm heading towards the white, and it goes down as I head towards the black. So what I did was I had this image information on, clicked on my main, height map, and I hovered over the top of the plate. And it tells me there under V for value that it's 191. Now I know that if I want this plate, if I hide this, because this is where it was, if I want to match these two, I went over here and I said, okay, it's 191. Then I went here, and you get the divot here is why it's going lower. So then I went here and I'm like, okay, that's 191. Okay, it's perfectly flush. They're like perfectly flat, which is what I wanted. Okay, now we need to fix this issue. To do that, we need to do, let's see. That should be max lighten. All right, one thing I realized is that our socket does not match our, our cover plate, because I forgot to 2 times my this guy. So this should be 2. Now that that's 2, the socket matches the plate. And then with max lighten and the height here set to 0.75, it's perfect. If we move this lower, if you want, then the plate can go lower. But obviously I want it to be flush like we talked about. So if you did an add, then hopefully you know why that doesn't work, because it's adding. So let's say this is 0.75, and then this socket is this socket is 0.5, and then it's adding 0.75, so it's going past, or it wants to go past 1. So it flattens the top. So we want to do a max lighten. And then we get this perfectly fitting plate on this socket. Now that's just for the middle piece. So now we need to do these little plates. So let's keep moving. We're reaching the 1, or we're past the 1 hour mark. So I'm going to try and go a little bit faster. Oh god, this one's annoying. But let's get to it. Alright, I'm not going to talk for this part, so it doesn't take forever, so I'm just going to go. I think what I'm doing is just a copy paste of what I did here, but in a smaller scale. So I think it'd just be safer if we just do it from scratch. It should be 0.1, not 0.01. Sorry about that. So this is what we did last time to try and get the beveled look. Okay, now this part is a little different, and I'll show you what I'm doing here. This should be add. And then this levels should be 0.7. Okay, so what's happening here, I am adding this. Wait a second. Let's change. Oops, not that. This to nearest. Okay. Because we want that straight line. So what we're doing here is I am beveling this shape. Pretty easy. Boom, boom, boom. And then before the bevel, I'm doing a levels here before the bevel to give me the max shape. So you see these pixels line up. Right? So they're the same shape, except this one's pre-bevel. Now what I did here is I lowered it to 0.7, and then here I add them. Let me just do this. I'm gonna plug this bevel in here to get rid of everything, all the hard work that we've done, and show you, because this is very important. So right now what this bevel is doing is, it's beveling, and this bottom portion here is very close to 0, and then obviously the top is white, so it's giving us this slope from 0 to 1. So what I'm doing here is I'm adding the original shape to it, and let me just slide this. So by default, this is just the bevel, and I'm adding its base shape into it, and you can see here that I'm raising. Let me go to this view, and I am adding its base shape to try and give me this beveled or chamfered look, because before it was like this, and I still want to have this bevel, but I don't want it to go all the way to the bottom. I want it to stay at the very top like this. So before, after. It's the same bevel, except we're adding to it to raise it and raise the bevel. So it looks like this. So before, after. All right, so let's replug this back in here. Okay. And then let's go back here to another shape. All right, silent mode. I'll explain what I'm doing here in just a second. Okay, so I started with a disk, I pulled it apart, and then I mirrored it to get two of them, and then I'm adding a bar in between, and I'm keeping the scale the same because I want the, from one side to the other to be 0.075, and then for this bar as well, and then I'm adding them together to do this. And then as you can see here, we need to change this to nearest. So then that's how I'm able to make this rounded rectangle on the corners. Then we're going to do a bevel. Then this bevel's going to be very small, negative 0.0075. And then we're going to turn the smoothing up to 1 to get this. And then we're going to do a levels. And then for this level, we're going to subtract from here. Like that. Except we don't want it to be that deep of a subtraction. We want to do 0.05. And then we're going to do another tile generator. Change this to 2x2. Input. And then we need to offset it. Like that. And then like we did with the notches and everything else, we're going to do a 2D, rotate it 90, and then add them together. I'm going to grab both of these connections here and hit X to invert the plug, the input. And then we're going to change this to add. And then from here, we're going to I'm going to shift click this connector to move it to here, and then put this back over here. Like that. And then this should be set to, not add, it should be set to max lighten. Okay, so we have this problem where we have to change this tile generator to 2 times. Like that. And then obviously it's not where it should be. We gotta lower it. So we're gonna do a levels here. And using the same method, using this and detecting what the height should be, I was able to trial and error and get to, this should be 0.75. And then that's flush again. And then now that we have this thing that we did earlier look nicer, it makes more sense that it looks like this rather than what it looked like before where there was like another like crease over here. And then we can see there are a little divot. Okay, we're getting to the end of the height. What's next? Oh, right. Our bolts. Okay. So for this, we're going to do a disk again. We're going to do a scale of 0.02. Guys, if you guys think I'm explaining too much or too slow or too fast, let me know in the comments. Okay. Or maybe I repeat myself too much. We're going to do a blur, high quality, change the quality to 1. We're going to do a intensity of 0.47. We're going to do another shape here. And this guy's going to be a paraboloid, not a disk. We're going to do a levels here, a blend, and then this guy is going to go, oh, it's going to go into the bottom actually. And what I'm doing here, I'm going to guess maybe a subtract. Yep, that's exactly what we wanted. The shape for this guy, the paraboloid, should be 0.06. Okay, so basically this is the bolt, and then, you know, this is the hole that it used to get pushed or screwed in. Okay. Now we are going to 2D transform it into a corner. So 0.325 and 0.325 and then 0.325. Just gonna go up in the top left corner. You guys probably already know what's gonna happen now. Do a mirror to get it on the top right corner, and then another mirror to get it to go in the bottom. Like that. And then you guys should know that we're going to need a level so that we can tell it how much exactly we are going to be adding by. Oh, forgot our, you guys probably already know, tile generator. Plug this at the top, detach the bottom. Oops. 2 input. That should be it. And then for our levels, we're going to do 0.2. Like that. That looks nice. Okay. Now for the rest of this, we're at 1 hour and 18. Okay, not bad, not bad. Let's try and get this part, the last bit, under the next 15 minutes. Okay, so that concludes basically the shapes. Now, when I did this originally, like I said, I started this like a year ago and I never finished it. I went back, and now that I know a lot more, I made it better and I was able to finish it because I can make it look like what I wanted. But what I had originally done was have, because this is going to be painted, and then we're going to have another layer below it that's going to be metal, and the paint is going to have like worn off, and it's going to be peeling. So this part is basically the start of the differentiation between what's painted and what is paint peeled. So, oof, this is going to be okay. So just stick with me here. This should be subtract because we're going to subtract the paint. So that's going to go all the way over here. Okay. Actually, I think I'm going to stop here and make this like height part 2. Or 1B for the second part of height, because this is going to be a little bit more involved. Maybe you don't want to have paint in yours, maybe you just want to make everything one color. So let me stop here.